hitting onto YouTube. I'm just letting you know, okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and read the Tragedy of Julius Caesar, Act 1, Scene 2. We're going to do a close reading on this, where you're going to highlight and annotate thoughts and ideas and or questions as we read, because Cassius uses a lot of soliloquy, or he uses a lot of, like, direct speaking either to his other characters or to the audience. Dominic?
What's soliloquy?
It's where you... It's where you give a long speech either to the people on the stage or to the audience or both, but it's a long type of speech. Or is it a monologue? Maybe I'm thinking monologue. Maybe I'm thinking the wrong word. Let me look, okay? Because I want to make sure I'm telling you correct.
Okay. You're welcome for the people listening.
Well, they'll get it.
Never mind.
She hasn't started recording.
I have.
Oh, you did?
I have. It's playing.
So, it can hear, like, even the quietest things.
I believe it does.
Things that turn down. Where's it at?
We're 20 now.
It's on my computer. Don't you go over there.
Let me get the shades. Let me get the shades.
Yeah, okay, here you go. Ready?
Yes.
I was correct.
Okay.
I love it when I'm correct. I love it when I'm right. Holy cow. Okay. So soliloquy is a long speech by a character who's alone on stage in which he expresses his innermost thoughts and feelings. That's what a soliloquy is. Monologue is when they're speaking to other characters on the stage.
Okay.
But it's like soliloquy is where they're sitting there kind of talking to themselves. Monologue is everybody da 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 da.
Okay.
You see? Make sense?
So like if their thoughts in their head, but they're saying
No.
what they're saying.
That may be Mrs. Roth.
Okay.
Okay? All right, are you guys good?
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this one is actually a monologue. This is not a soliloquy. So I'm glad that you asked. That was a great question. And we learned something new today, even your teacher. All right. So Cassius here is speaking to Brutus. And this is in scene 2, but we've already read through scene 3. We did that yesterday. Cassius says, I know that virtue be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know you outward favor. Well, honor is the subject of my story. So what is he talking about? He's talking about honor. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to quickly put an underline or a box or something around this. And it seems that this is important, doesn't it? This matters to Cassius, right? All right. Okay. Honor is the subject of my story. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life, but for my single self, I had a lief not be as live to be in awe of such things as I myself. That's really, 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 really backwards, isn't it? That sounds weird, doesn't it? Okay. I had a life, or L-I-E-F, is that life? Leave, life, not be, as live to be in awe of such a thing as I myself. So one says, just as soon not exist, and that says it down at the bottom in the footnotes. Do you see that little number 1 right here?
Yeah.
Look at the footnote for that.
Just as soon not exist.
Okay, and then right here, what does it say for number 2?
Another human being. Caesar.
Okay, so I had as lief not be, just as I had as not soon as exist, right? Is that what he's saying? Okay, as live to be in awe of such thing as I myself, Caesar. In other words, what? What do you think? Everyone's kind of just looking at me like, really, Miss Arnie?
Is he saying like
Thank you. Is he saying like what? He always throws me off. What are you? Okay, what do you think he's saying? What happened to my screen? There it is. Okay. What do you think he's saying? Here.
I don't understand.
Let's see.
I had his leaf. Let's look that word up. Lief. Will somebody look that word up? That's what's throwing me off.
I got it.
I know what it means, but I'm like trying to help you guys muddle through something. Yes.
The first thing that popped up says as happily as gladly, or
As happily or as gladly.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and put happily up there.
So he believes happily until he doesn't.
Well, he said he'd as happily not. I'd as happily not. And then not exist, right?
It
Harrison?
means really slick, smooth, is good with ladies.
Harrison, you looked it up.
You totally, I don't know what you looked up, Harrison.
Willing.
I had as happily not exist.
We'll have your back.
In other words, I would rather not exist, right?
So, like, what he thinks of this line is like he would rather he would be happy with not existing.
If, right? He says, okay, yeah, yes. That's where we are. Okay, so let's go back here and see this. I cannot tell what you and other men think of this life. I cannot tell what everybody else think of this life. But as for my single self, as for me, I had as happily not exist as live to be in awe of such things as I myself. Be in awe of such things as he's talking about another human being or Caesar. In other words, I'd rather die than place someone else before himself. That's what he's saying. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down because I think that'll help us. He'd rather die. And that's a weird line, isn't it? That's probably the first time I've really stumbled on this.
So he honors himself.
I think so. Pride. He's got a pride there, right? He'd rather die than place someone else before himself. Okay, I'm going to put that question mark there because I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of what we got out of that, yeah? Okay. In other words, there's some form of pride, right? Do you agree? Pride. Is pride good or bad?
Goes both ways.
Depends on circumstance. Pride can be both, right?
Yes.
A strength or weakness. Sorry, strength and weakness. There we go. Okay. Boy, we got quite a bit done there, yeah? Good? Oh, all right. So far, it seems that the most important thing here for Cassius as he's talking to Brutus is honor, and that he'd rather die than place someone else before himself. He's prideful, yes? Okay, I was born free as Caesar, and so were you. We both have fed as well, and we can both endure the winter's cold as well as he. Yeah? Okay. Interesting that he would talk about that, don't you think? Do you think that Shakespeare maybe have put something in there as far as winter's cold goes? Not necessarily it being winter time, because isn't it springtime? But do you think he's using it as a metaphor for something else? What do you think he might be using it for?
like
A sad time.
Possible metaphor. Sad time.
I guess you call it depression now.
What are they talking about throughout this whole piece? Aren't they trying to conspire against Caesar?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's going to bring kind of a dampen and bring a cold feeling in the hearts of the men?
Yeah.
Kind of interesting thought, right? Talk of killing Caesar.
So it's like foreshadowing.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Kind of interesting way of doing it. All right, so we have upon the world is where this ends for me. Okay, good. All right, as well as he. For once upon a raw and gusty day, the troubled Tiber, chafing with her shores, Caesar said to me, darest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point? What's going on here? We have the Tiber. What is the Tiber? He says, leap into me with this angry flood and swim. So what do you think the Tiber is? It's capitalized. So the name of a place, what kind of name is it? What's it naming if it's dealing with water? Maybe ocean. Lake, pond. What? How can we find out the answer to this?
Urban Dictionary.
Google search.
Look it up.
Look it up.
You want me to do that one, sister?
Shelby's got me.
I'll help you. Here's my glasses.
It's a river.
Harrison.
Harrison, give your brother his glasses. It is a river.
He's not even paying attention.
It's the name of the river. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so now we know that. The troubled Tiber chafing with her shores. Caesar said to me, darest thou, Cassius? Do you dare? Is he asking him to do something? I dare you. Do you dare? I dare you. What do I dare you to do? What is Caesar telling him to do? Swim a rough river. Do you think maybe if he's daring him, he's challenging him?
Perhaps.
And one more question. With this challenge, do you think that it would be maybe an honor of manliness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
So I'm going to put manhood here. Especially since they're going to do things like this instead of, I don't know about you guys, but when my son was young, and even now when my boys are older, if they could outlift each other, outrun each other, outbox each other, outwrestle each other, they were the stronger, and it was a strength, and it was something to brag about.
I know
You
you
see?
see that right now. Huh?
Okay.
You're all thinking it.
Make sense?
Let's go.
It is. It is a masculine thing. Think about it. And we still have that today, don't we? Who can hit harder on the football field? Who can score more points on the basketball courts?
Put your hand
Right.
down.
Who has the better blocking span? Yeah, all these boys raise their hands in this class, right?
You too, right there.
Yes, and the girls. It's a show of strength. Okay, so let's go back to this. Caesar said to me, "Dearest thou, Cassius, now leap in with me into this angry flood and swim to yonder point." Upon the word, I'm going to have to go ahead and pull this down because I need to scroll down. Does everybody got the notes?
Yeah.
Get the notes because I'm getting ready to move it. We got it?
No. Move out of the way.
Manhood, yeah. That says manhood.
I should have done it this time.
We got it?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, upon the word,
Mount Red.
okay, we'll have to do it there. All right. Account read, as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow. So what happened there? What happened there?
They plunged in.
He plunged in. He followed him to the river. He accepted the challenge. He didn't back down, right? Do you think it is?
Perhaps.
He dove into an angry river. And if you look, what was he dressed in? Oh my gosh. He was dressed in his armor.
That's brazen. Why would you?
It is. It is crazy. Here, we're talking about his armor. If you look at your footnote, Cassius jumped in. Fully dressed in armor. Right? Is he crazy or was he just exaggerating?
He crazy.
Why would he exaggerate if he was? What'd you say? To show manhood, right? To sway Brutus, right? Account read, as I was, I plunged in and bade him follow. So indeed he did. The torrent roared, and we did buffet it, with lusty sinews throwing it aside and stemming it with the hearts of controversy. That's weird. Stemming it with hearts of controversy. We did buffet it with lusty sinews, throwing it aside. So basically, they were in the river. But could this controversy mean possibly mixed feelings about each other? I don't know. We're talking about hearts. So I'm thinking hearts, mixed feelings.
In the footnote, it says hearts full of aggressive feelings or fighting spirit.
Oh, good. See footnote. Thank you. Perfect. So we're pretty right on there, right? Yeah.
We don't need the rest of them.
About this foolish dare, maybe Cassius still has mixed feelings about his actions regarding Caesar. I don't know. What do you think? Okay. All right. But ere we could arrive, the point proposed. Ere means not error. But ere we could arrive, the point proposed, Caesar cried, "Help me, Cassius, or I sink." What's going on there? Who's sinking? Caesar is sinking. Why not just let this man die right here?
That's no fun.
So you can throw suspicion away from himself.
Maybe. Okay. Why not allow him to die here? I find this really fascinating here that he says, help me, Cassius, or I sink. If this is a contest of manhood, who won the contest? Cassius won this contest. Do you think this maybe has shown some form of weakness in Caesar? Yeah. In Cassius's eyes, it's actually definitely Caesar loses manhood, right? Like, Caesar loses manhood status here. Yeah. One of the interesting facts that I found as I was doing I took the play actually, and I found a audio version of it. It's not the best reading, like the actors and stuff are just weird. Some of them are, and I wasn't really thrilled with Brutus, but it gets the point across, and it gives me an audio version that's free, public domain for my students to use should they miss class that day. Okay. So I separated it out last night into different plays and different acts of the play and different scenes. And one of the scenes that I was reading about while I was separating it out was fascinating about suicide. When you look at suicide, this is a cultural thing. When you look at suicide, culturally, in the Islam faith, in the Judaism faith, in the Christianity faith, it's a mortal sin. You do not kill your body. That body is a gift from God or Allah, okay? And you take care of it, all right? And all three of those major faiths in the world, the top three major faiths in the world, and all three of them declare the same thing when it comes to suicide. But ancient Roman belief does not. They actually give it as an option to execution for like Roman soldiers or citizens who may have done some form of treachery or what do they call that when somebody goes against their governments? Treason. If they perform some form of act of treason, they would give them the option, do you want to go ahead and commit suicide or shall we kill you? And it would be actually more honorable than the execution death. Found that fascinating. Okay, so suicide wasn't necessarily thought of as bad. So would Caesar have earned points had he allowed himself to die here? I believe he would have. In the eyes of Cassius, he would have. And eventually you get to this point where Cassius, who's the one saying, hey, let's kill Caesar? Cassius, isn't he? Isn't he the one to start things? Yeah, no, Brutus was like, oh, I'm just thinking, we really don't want a tyrant. I'm just thinking, don't worry about anything else. It's just my own inner feelings. And Cassius is like, oh, let me play with your inner feelings. Yes, that's what Cassius does. And he's like, I see now that I can persuade you to come to my side. We're going to get rid of Caesar. Do you see? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what he says. He says, Cassius, help me before I sink. All right, Aeneas is a hero of the Trojan War, the founder of Rome, who once carried his own father from the burning city of Troy. Hero of the Trojan War. He calls himself I as Aeneas. How highly does he think of himself? Oh my gosh. I, as Aeneas, our great ancestor, did from the flames of Troy upon his shoulders, the old and Jesus bare, so from the waves of Tiber did I, the tired Caesar, and this man is now become a god, and Cassius is a wretched creature and must bend his body if Caesar carelessly but not on him. Oh boy, howdy, we have some anger, don't we?
Yes.
We have some major anger. And that anger is all right here, isn't it? Cassius thinks highly of himself. He calls himself a Greek god, doesn't he?
A Greek god?
Like a Greek god, yeah, Aeneas. Puts Caesar on his shoulders just like an epic hero, right? Carrying him out of the water just like an epic hero.
He's a gloater.
Uh-huh. And what do I get for it? But I have to bow my knee down to Caesar and worship him like a god. He's kind of mad.
Hey man, I'd be too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you think so far? So far, so good?
Yeah.
Kind of getting into the mind of Cassius a little bit, aren't we? What is this dude's problem? Why is he thinking so terribly of Caesar? What is his problem? Right? Yeah, he's pretty ticked. He's not happy. Okay. He had a fever when he was in Spain. Oh, a fever is going to show some form of human weakness. This is a human weakness. But yet he calls Caesar like a god, right? He's declaring Caesar believes himself to be a god. But he can't be if he has that human weakness of gaining fever. Not a good thing. Shows weakness. Man should have died in the river. Right? According to Cassius. I think that he's jealous here too. Cassius is a wretched creature and must bend his body to Caesar. There's a definite form of jealousy here. Okay. Lots of going on here with this, right? Do you have it written down? Yes? We good for me to pop it off? It is time to go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this.